I heard you say that this is the most important thing that you've ever done besides caring for your kids. I think that would surprise a lot of people.
Raising my children, yes. Mm-hmm. I did say that. That was part of my speech the other night. Explain that?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I feel a great sense of responsibility being a good parent and raising my children. I don't take that job very lightly, and who they are and what they become and what they contribute to the world is very important to me. So, no slacking in that area, please God. So, but then the same goes with this film. This is a situation where I've put in, I don't know how many man hours. I've poured my own money into it, as well as Stephen Klein. He's done the same, and we've done it not only for no financial gain, but not to promote any work in particular, any product in particular. The only reason we're doing this is because we want to shed light on a subject that needs to have light shed on it, and that is that I do believe that a big part of I do see that the world that we live in is collapsing to a certain extent, and that civilization as we know it is caving in on itself. And I think a lot of that, 95% of the reason is because we are at a very low level of consciousness, and that we do not know how to treat each other as human beings. And we are just too caught up in our own lives and our own needs, our own ego gratification, and I just feel a very strong sense of responsibility in delivering that message. And
but also, I mean, it seems like there's an optimism behind what you're doing. I mean,
of course, I'm doing it because I believe in the ultimate good of humanity. But a lot of times, push has to come to shove, and I think you've noticed yourself over the years that, when do people really want to, come to the rescue of others? When there's a catastrophe,
Yeah.
When 9/11 happened, or when, the floods happened in New Orleans, or when the bomb happened in Boston, or, when we have these natural disasters or acts of terrorism or whatever, when these tragedies occur, what happens? People come together. Suddenly, yes, people say, what can I do to help? What can I do to be of service? Suddenly they stop thinking of themselves. And so what I'm trying to say is, why do we have to be pushed to the worst case scenario to bring out the best in ourselves, to be the best version of ourselves that we can be? And
for people who don't know the full project, you have a film which is Secret Project Revolution, is a film, and you're also encouraging people through something called Art for Freedom, which is a digital initiative.
Right.
It's basically you're encouraging people to create works of art in whatever medium, basically to inspire change through artistic
Yes,
expression.
to inspire change, because I believe that creativity and art is a way to get to people, whether that's through film clips, through music, through the written word. I mean, that is, even if you just talk about the way we communicate on the Internet, that's how we reach one another, where we watch things on YouTube, we listen to music on iTunes or whatever, and we connect to feelings, we connect to situations, we are inspired to change, we gain strength, we are horrified. This is how people are reached, through art, through creativity. So I'm encouraging other people, whether they're professional artists or not, to use their creativity to express themselves, to talk about, to get conversation going, to get the party started, really. Because, like James Baldwin says so eloquently, and I'm a big fan of his, I don't separate the human spirit with the artistic spirit.
Yeah, James Baldwin. I'm a huge fan of his writing as well. And one of the things, I went to the opening for Secret Project Revolution in New York, or one of them. I was obviously worldwide, but you actually incorporate some words from Baldwin. And one of the things that he said is that only the artist can truly, and I'm not quoting him directly, but that only the artist can truly see and describe the human condition.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not something I think a lot of people really think about, but that's clearly something you believe in very strongly, that art can actually make a change in people's lives.
I believe that, and I think it used to make a much bigger change in people's lives than it used to. But, in the days when people were not censored, in the days when branding wasn't in charge, now in order for people to get their stuff out there, they have to be associated with the brand. And once you associate yourself with the brand, unfortunately, the brand starts to censor you and say, no, we're not comfortable with that. No, we're not. We want you to remove that, and we want you to change that. And then suddenly, it's not your pure vision anymore. I mean, imagine if someone like John Lennon or Bob Marley or, I can't think. There's lots of different artists, even Sid Vicious, Picasso, whomever, were doing their work, and some corporation, some CEO, some branding entity would say to you, okay, you can do that, but you've got to remove this aspect of your work. It would no longer be that pure. It wouldn't have that purity anymore, and it's that purity with all the rough edges, with all the things that you may deem politically incorrect, with anything you might disagree with, what John Lennon had to say, or what Bob Marley did with himself and his personal life, etc. What would we wouldn't have their gift. We wouldn't learn from what they had to share with us. I mean, Marvin Gaye, for instance. Marvin Gaye was an incredible artist, but what did he? His personal life was pretty in question if you really put him under the microscope. I'm not sure how far he would get in this day and age, but I don't believe it's our job to judge what people do in their personal life. I'm all for non-censorship and freedom of expression.
It's also one of the things, obviously, that I've always admired about you is that from the beginning of your career, you've been speaking out against intolerance, against oppression, and really being a champion, a voice out there championing freedom in
right.
all its many different forms.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I mean, because you didn't have to do that early on. You don't have to do this now. This is not a money-making venture for you.
No.
Where does that come from? I saw your concert 3 times, and you spoke about Malala Yousafzai and showed her photograph and informed audiences about somebody who maybe they didn't know her name before or know her story before. Where does that come from with you?
I'm not really sure. I just I think at a very young age I saw that I saw that people expected that conformity equaled popularity, but it also equaled swallowing the truth, and it was the opposite of being authentic. And for me, being authentic was everything. And I don't know. I guess part of it came from the fact that I'm not saying this to feel sorry for myself, but I wasn't very popular. And I think that it's just in my nature that I wanted to challenge the system and say, okay, if I'm not popular, why am I not popular? Why can't I do this? Why is this not acceptable? Some of it had to do with growing up with a very strict Catholic father who said, girls have to wear dresses to church. And then I would say, why? But give me a good reason for it. Or, the girls have to cover their head, but the boys don't. Why? What's the reason for it? And why? Does Jesus love me less if I wear pants? I don't know why. Questioning authority and wanting to have good reasons and not wanting to be a sheep that just followed rules has never been in my DNA. So, I don't know. It started as a child.
One of the things that James Baldwin wrote and said, which you quote, is, he said, no label, no slogan, no party, and no skin color, indeed no religion is more important than the human being. That seems to be at a core
right
core
on. I wish I said that. That's my religion.
That is your religion.
That is my religion, yes. and I really wish everybody would join my church. Please, I'll serve cookies.
It's interesting. The idea of this art for freedom.
And by the way, saying all those things, that motto, that thing that James Baldwin says, doesn't eliminate the belief system of other religions. All other religions
it's
are
not an
saying...
anti-religious statement.
No, it's all other religions are saying, love thy neighbor as thyself. How do you do that? By treating other people like human beings. By not thinking that you're better than somebody because of the color of your skin or your sexual preference, et cetera, et cetera. So it encompasses the belief systems of all religions.
How do you deal with the criticism that you inevitably will get from doing this? Because even in the film, in the Secret Project Revolution, you say, and I'm looking for the quote here, you say in the film that you want to start a revolution, and you talk about a revolution of love, but you say no one is taking you seriously.
Right.
Do you worry about that? Because it's one, people can say, oh, look, you're Madonna.
I'm playing with people because I know that there are some people who won't take me seriously. So I'm saying it before they say it. And I'm playing with the idea that, I say, oh, would you take me seriously if I was an Arab carrying a hand grenade? Yeah, you would. Would you take me seriously if I was a member of Hezbollah? Yeah, you would. Would you take me seriously if, I go for all the archetypes of, like, somebody that someone would fear might throw a bomb into a room, okay?
But when you talk about a revolution, what do you really mean?
I mean change. I mean serious, drastic change. I mean, we have to change, and that's all there is to it.
And it's a change not necessarily of, it's not one political party.
No, it's not a political party.
It's
called consciousness.
Heart, you're saying.
Consciousness must change. It's what James Baldwin said. You can be a member of any political party. You can be a member of any religious organization. But nothing is going to change until the human being, the essence of the human being changes and recognizes that each and every one of us are the same and connected and are entitled to treatment, equal treatment, that we are all entitled to be treated with human dignity and respect by one another. And until we recognize that, there is going to be no peace in the Middle East. There is going to be there's going to be no end to the vicious and atrocious suffering that we inflict on one another as human beings.
The idea with Art for Freedom, there's a website, artforfreedom.com. It's this digital initiative, and people, as you said, artists, non-artists, can submit basically just creative expression.
Right.
As a way, in your words, to fight oppression, to fight intolerance, to fight complacency. Have there been submissions already that have moved you, that you have seen, or what is your hope?
Yeah, it's just the beginning, so I think people are checking out to see what other people are sending before they understand exactly what it is they should be sending. It's early days. Some people are just sending in their stories, their articles. Some people are making like music video clips that pretty much go along the same lines of what I'm trying to say in my film. Some people are telling stories about, some kind of oppression going on in the world, whether it's in Burma or Syria. I think, ultimately what I'm going for and what I'm trying to encourage people to do is to make an effort, to go out on the street, to find stories, to tell their own stories, to share their stories, to have somebody film them, to film themselves, to create. You go on YouTube and you see the effort people make, the efforts that people make to make, funny cat stories or kids that cry at the drop of a hat, or, you know what I mean? People go quite a distance to make an entertaining clip on YouTube. I'd like people to use that same initiative and effort to share stories that have to do with surviving some kind of oppression, enduring some kind of persecution, giving voice to people whose stories need to be told, need to be heard, getting the conversations going, connecting human beings, making people stop and think.
One of the things as a reporter that I've always been a big believer in is even if one can't change a horrible thing that's happened somewhere, that there is power and importance in bearing witness to the struggles of other people.
I totally agree. People need to know. Sorry to interrupt you. People need to know.
No.
If you watch some of the clips that people made at some of the guerrilla screenings where we showed the films around the world on walls, and then you hear people talking afterwards, just getting people to talk about it, to discuss amongst themselves, to hear what they have to say, is part of what affects change. Giving a voice to people, giving people an opportunity to speak in a communal way about what they're witnessing in the world.
One of the things you also say in the film Secret Project Revolution is you say the enemy is within. So the kind of, when you talk about a lack of freedom, when you talk about freedom, it's also sort of the prisons that we all put ourselves in.
The limits that we give ourselves, the prisons we put ourselves in. We say, what can I do? What can this me, one small person, how can I affect change in the world? Or, I've got...
Or the negative messages that we internalize from other people.
Yes, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. Or, we let other people make decisions for us. I mean, let's face it. If you want to be a selfish pig in this world, you're going to get all the help you want. And if you actually want to do good or you want to affect change, it's going to be a struggle, an uphill struggle, and people aren't going to come running to your rescue. But that's the way the universe is set up, and that's why. But we've got to change the tipping point, and the balance has to go in the other direction.
It is interesting in this kind of internet age where, in some ways, we're more connected than ever before. We have more information at our fingertips.
Yeah, that's a funny paradox, though.
Yeah, but in some ways we.
But we're just watching. We're just watching. We're watching what's going on in the world. We're not involved. We're not really. We're not connecting to people.
You're saying almost all this information makes it feel less real in a way.
We know a lot, but we have no desire to help one another.
Although I do think people. I mean, I've found, as you said, in the wake of the earthquake in Haiti, there's nobody more generous than the American people who reach into their pockets and reach out, and raise money and send food and send aid and care and go, to roll up their sleeves and help complete strangers. I find
but we have to.
How go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, no, I find it interesting how something about the internet has allowed. There is a kind of passivity to it, but also a negativity to it. It's allowed people to anonymously say things which are just horrible to one another.
Oh, this is the scariest part of it. Yes, it's a vicious, horrible, entity that's been created because wherever there's the greatest amount of darkness is the greatest amount of light. So here we have this machine, this computer, this capability that connects the world in seconds, and suddenly everyone can access the same bit of information, which is really miraculous when you think about it. But at the same time, we have, we can hide behind this anonymous piece of machinery, and anyone can say anything to anyone about anyone, and, the character assassinations that go on, the lies that are spread, the evil that is, that emanates from the same source is frightening, and that has to do with consciousness. So that is why the enemy is within, and that is what has to change. The consciousness of people has to change, and when that does, when we all realize that we cannot anonymously hide behind the internet and say vicious, disgusting things about people, that our words and that our thoughts are just as destructive as aiming a gun at somebody and blowing their brains out. When we really take responsibility for that, we will live in a very different world.
And yet, the thing I've learned just from traveling and being in places where horrible things have happened is that there is a choice. People can choose to commit acts of horror and hate, or they can choose to commit acts of compassion and kindness. And it is a choice, and the choice is up to each of us.
Yep, it is. It is. But a lot of it has to do with, education and what we're exposed to and what we have access to, and, the choices that a Palestinian kid growing up in, a refugee camp who has had no access to any kind of education and doesn't have any rights and has never seen the sea. You know what I mean? Like the choices he's going to make versus somebody who's, been able to go to Yale and gets to travel freely in the world and they're very different. You have to take so many things into consideration.
How much of this project, Art for Freedom, came about through your own experiences on tour? In particular, you were in St. Petersburg, and
a lot of it came from my own experiences, on tour, before tour, my whole life leading up to my tour. But the thing is, it seemed on my last tour that the intolerance that I have always witnessed in the world was just getting a little bit was cranked up.
For people who don't know,
a few more notches.
In St. Petersburg, in Russia, you performed. You handed out pink bracelets in protest of the law.
The government saying that if anyone was caught displaying their homosexuality, the fact that they were gay, public acts of affection, or public acts of being gay, whatever that means. So it's just so vague. That they would be arrested, and I was like, what planet am I living on? This is insane.
You actually got sued by them.
I did. Yep, I was sued for $1 million, and but at the same time, the city right before that, Pussy Riot was on trial for and sentenced to 7 years in jail, which was then reduced to 3, for criticizing the government, for criticizing Putin. And once again, I was astounded and baffled that this could go on in the 21st century.
How do you go about? I mean, one of the things that seems to me that, in a way, you hope this does in ways large and small, is this idea of people submitting their works of art that sort of counters intolerance, oppression, complacency. Is kind of spreading empathy and almost teaching empathy, or not teaching is maybe too grand a word, but just expressing the value of empathy. How do you, I mean, for your own kids, how do you teach empathy? Can you teach empathy? Is that something you try to do with your kids?
Feeling other people's pain, is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Walking in someone else's shoes.
I mean, one has to. I mean, first of all, making my children aware about what's going on in the world is a big part of it. Traveling with them to places like Africa, spending time in orphanages with children who have been orphaned because their parents have died of AIDS, or going to hospitals and seeing kids who are missing limbs or who are in comas because of malaria, or who are also dying of AIDS. Being of service to their community, understanding. I mean, last night we watched a movie. I made my older children watch a movie called Omar. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. No. It's
a brilliant film. It hasn't come out yet, but it's about this group of kids that grow up in Palestine, and they're plotting against the Israeli army, and it's kind of, one of them has a crisis of conscience, and it's and has to make a decision, and it's really important that you explain things to children that are teenagers. My son is 13 and my daughter's almost 17. Explain. They don't really know what's going on in the Middle East. They don't, explain to them the history of Palestine and Israel. Things need to be understood, because they only understand things in sound bites. That's unfortunately all you get on the internet. So understanding history, seeing how history repeats itself, trying to give them, in the field experience, seeing people live in situations that are much less privileged than ours, opening up their eyes to the world. I mean, this is how you teach empathy. Even my show the other night that I did, I always try to present, what I tried to show after I showed my film was, the ways that we have inflicted pain on one another. Whether it's the way we treat the gay community and have been treating the gay community for hundreds of years, and or the way that we treated the Africans when they came from Africa, first as slaves and then going up to the civil rights movement. I had a whole piece of, that was kind of focused on the horrors of lynching. And, when you see people hanging from trees and human bodies, dead bodies hanging from trees, and you see people looking at it with a smile on their face, like it's entertainment. And then you see the Jews being put on trains and being taken off to Auschwitz, and you just think, my God, this is what we've done. This is what we've done to one another as human beings. You have to bear witness to these horrors. You have to see them. You have to understand it. It has to be in your face. Unfortunately, just reading about it in a book doesn't do the trick.
And that's what this is about. This is about people all around the world being able to submit their own voices. And
show and share. Rocco, just wait till I'm done, okay? And share their stories, or share something they've borne witness to, or something that's happened in the past that they want to turn into art, whether it's a collage or a film. It's using art, which can heal, which can provoke, which can inspire, to spread a message of compassion. Really, that's the bottom line.
Madonna, thank you very much.
Sorry, did I didn't mean to be a conversation ender.
No, no. I mean, I know Rocco's waiting, so I don't want to keep you. But
no,
I thought that was
okay.
great.
He can just wait. Rocco's always waiting.
Well, I mean, that's. I mean,
I just hope I answered all the questions that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to focus on this.
And obviously, it's something I'm really passionate about. So I could talk extemporaneously on the subject. So.
Well, I mean, I think it's good because I think it is. A lot of people don't understand that there is a part in this that you are hoping that they take part in. That
of
this
course,
is not just a film you are putting out there. This is something you are hoping to be really a conversation in a way.
Yeah, this is only the beginning. I made the film is the launching board. The film isn't the beginning and the ending. It's the beginning, and then that I made my film. Now you make yours. Let's get the party started. So that's it, and I'm waiting for yours, Anderson.
Well, all right, I'll work on it.
I'm sure you know some people that have a camera.
Okay.
Okay.
Now the pressure's on.
And remember when I saw you when I was dressed like a Boy Scout?
Yes.
And I said I wanted you to join my revolution.
I remember.
Remember? Okay, so I waited. I was patient.
What have you done with that Boy Scout outfit, by the way?
It's been appropriated by several members of my family. They all have different pieces. One has the shorts, one has the shirt, the other one has the badges. So I kept the combat boots.
Of course, as you should.
I'll need those for my revolution.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for supporting me.
All right, you take care.